The Brandon Peters Show may contain explicit language and detailed plot points. For more information on the show, stay tuned to the end of the episode.
It's the summer of 93 at 30.
Welcome to the Brandon Peters Show and the final adventure of the summer of 93 at 30 series. This has been a weekend by weekend look at the movies released during the summer of 1993. And here as he's been for the whole journey of 2 complete summers. Scott's like, I've seen every movie from the summers of 82 and 93. It's Scott Mendelson from The Wrap.
It has been a long, long, dark journey, but now it is at its end. And I am glad that you're here at the end of all things.
And completing his first summer with us from the summer of 93, writer for We Live Entertainment, Brady Why So Blue, and host of Out Now with Aaron, and guest star of the Brandon Peters Show's Abraham Moa, Aaron Neuwirth.
Hey, okay, so I've tallied up all the movies that Scott and I disliked, and I figured that you said that you would reimburse us for those fees to watch them, so we can do that live on the show. So that we can
Let me message you my Venmo. You can.
Well, in that case,
you can ask.
Never mind. I didn't like House of Cards.
Oh, that has been the phrase of the summer. It's no House of Cards. Truly been. So, for the listeners here, this episode is coming the week after the previous one, but for us in real time here, it has been 2 months. Inadvertently, there's been this long break in our recordings that just happens. A lot of stuff, personal stuff.
Barbenheimer just fucked up everything.
Barbenheimer happened. There are 2 strikes currently going on.
There's strikes.
More indictments for some people's favorite presidents. I mean, it's just great.
When it was clear Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 2 was not going to be the #1 box office champion this year, Scott asked us if he could take a week. And we were like, all right.
And when Ruby Gilman bombed, he asked for another week.
Yeah. So yeah, it's so we know the results of the Barbenheimer thing. We know everything except right now the Meg 2 and Ninja Turtles, what they're gonna do. We don't know.
Come on, Meg.
And who knows, that Blue Beetle might pull it off.
It will not.
It sold dozens of pre-sale tickets.
Dozens.
I mean, it looks fun, but God, I wish it had come out in like 2017 when superhero movies were still an automatic big deal. But I digress.
I mean, it may make well under $100 million. So, who knows? We shall.
And we still have to take one last voyage on the Demeter.
Yes, that one's just for fun. That's a for us film. We never expected that. That's a one for us. That's the one for us movie.
You've got to get those tickets. Is all I'm saying.
Yes. So we are here.
But I do wonder if, like, and again, we at this recording we have not seen that film yet, as far as I know. It's like, can you watch like Bram Stoker's Dracula right up to that part where they're very briefly talking about the ship, watch all of the Voyage to Demeter, and then jump back into Bram Stoker's Dracula?
No, because it's not the accurate Dracula.
But that's how most movies, I think, should work. Like, we should be able to watch the beginning of Jurassic Park Dominion, pause of the director's version that has the flashback, pause that, watch Disney's Dinosaur, then watch Jurassic Park. That's how things should work. But
or since they're both Universal, you watch the prologue to Jurassic World Dominion. You're right, and then watch all 15 Land Before Time movies.
Which Brandon said he would do for a special Naptown Nerd.
Jenny Nicholson beat you to it by like a year.
There we go. Sorry, thanks, Jenny. You got me off the hook.
I think we could use a man's perspective for a change. What if that was this show? What if we were that guy?
Oh my gosh.
Lord. The guy railing against Barbenheimer.
Oh my.
What are we talking about? 90s movies?
90s movies. Anyway, I was going to say, I want the film of someone to make Rocky's flight to Russia in Rocky 4. So you can it's just all the flight. That's it.
I want to know him flying back from Russia, after which his son is like 7 years older.
Oh, that's true.
They must have flew through one of those time rifts from.
Well, we've had another delay, Mr. Balboa. It's going to be another year.
Is he sitting there Matthew McConaughey style in Interstellar, watching them crying at the footage of his son growing up?
And Paulie's just like, I can't stop signing bad deals and man, spending your money.
And he's sitting there behind a bookcase. Paulie, no! Stop it!
All right. So summer movies in 93. This is the final week, the series finale, as we discuss September.
Someone will die.
But who?
Sorry, Brandon, it's you.
Oh, no. That almost happened between these recordings. Anyway, so the September 3rd through 5th, 1993, I believe it's the Labor Day weekend, always the best.
Huge
weekend.
Huge weekend.
We'll be discussing
Craven weekend in 2024.
There we go. 4 films this weekend. But as we always do, let's one last time for the news of 1993.
When I wake up, don't you know I'm gonna be the man who brings the news to you.
If you think about it, all I really did was take the summer off. Thank you very much. Welcome to the show. My name is Dave, and I checked this now with the CBS attorneys, and legally I can continue to call myself Dave. So yes, sir.
All right. So on August 30th, the Late Show with David Letterman debuts. Remember, Dave signed off earlier in the summer, and he's back on CBS from the Ed Sullivan Theater. His first guest was Scott.
Bill Murray.
Aaron.
Steve Martin.
Scott is correct. One point to Scott.
I watched it.
The musical guest was Aaron.
Oh, shit. Can I quietly Google this?
No. I will give you a clue, Scott.
Oh,
I don't get a clue.
Shit.
No pressure, Aaron.
No pressure.
David Bowie?
Bowie?
Billy Joel?
There you go, Scott. There you go.
Uh,
Scott did the music video episode of the Brandon Peters Show for that song.
Oh, right. That too.
Yes.
All
right.
And this, of course, for those who don't know, David Letterman got his own show at 11:30 on CBS after he failed to get the Tonight Show, which after Johnny Carson retired, there was a giant war. Thousands of people were killed. It was very tragic, but eventually Jay Leno took the crown of the Tonight Show.
And that was the last time there was ever controversy involving the Tonight Show.
Yes, fortunately, Jay Leno picked it to air with plenty of time, and the next transition was incredibly smooth, and nothing bad ever happened.
Well-oiled machine, that Tonight Show, that's for sure.
So I actually, what's funny, like I had a reel come up that was a Jay Leno interview for some reason, and it was him talking about this, and he, according to him, he like subbed for Carson for 5 years? Something like that before he got the job. They brought him in. He thought the job was Letterman's. He mentioned it, and they said, no, it's going to be you, because every time he guest hosted, the ratings never dipped. He always maintained the ratings. And David Letterman, in his spot, killed it, crushed it, everything. And it was basically Letterman was too good at his job, and they didn't want to move away from that and then have a problem at that slot. They owned 2.5 hours of television in the prime spot and prime time, and they didn't want to let that go. And Letterman got forced out because being good at his job and idiot people at top that, they knew if they put Conan there, it was going to dip. And that's what happened. That's why Letterman left. But according to Leno, the Tonight Show job was never going to be offered to Letterman. Even if Leno said no, they were going to find somebody like a high-profile name to take it.
So much bloodshed for nothing.
I was never a Leno guy. I was always Conan.
I loved headlines.
And I liked, the headlines were good. There were some bits. But I was always Conan. Growing up in my youth, I remember watching his first episode and just sticking with him through then. And I like Letterman a bit. Went to the same college as David Letterman, but
so you guys are mildly older. I'm
You
being
didn't live through the first
I could
Optional
lay
War.
in
You
the
lived through the
jokes
second
about
one.
being old. If I'm just saying mildly older. That's all I'm saying.
The
Pouncing
late
on me.
shift
I'm
saga
just trying
was
to
one
like
of the
set up a
first.
context here. But I'm just saying, you guys are slightly older than I am, so I didn't grow up watching late night shows during the '90s just because it wasn't like my thing. It wasn't until, and like honestly, I didn't even like know about Conan until Conan was reruns around Comedy Central for a while, and until they got bought out or whatever.
In the year 2000.
like that was my introduction to Conan. Beyond like sympathy, it's like not like I knew who was writing The Simpsons in the '90s. I'm just like, yeah, this is funny.
I knew
so,
Max Weinberg as Conan's drummer before I realized he was Springsteen's
the same.
E Street
Like, it was
drummer.
a lot of
Yeah.
gateway stuff because of that, and like learning about things. I didn't start watching late night shows until I started watching Fallon before he was on the Tonight Show when it was moderately better. Mainly because it's like he has the Roots playing weekly for him. That's awesome.
Yeah.
But I think, and then he went to Tonight Show and is like, well, this is just bad now. I don't like this anymore. But anyway, that's my Tonight Show. That's my late show journey.
On the same date that premiered, the 150 millionth visitor to the Eiffel Tower stepped in and visited.
Finally.
Yep. The guy with the ticker was like, "Oh, Janice!" Or no, Alexis! Oh my God! Oh, the 50 million!
I like this like novelty size clicker that he has. It goes to 1 million.
150 million, not just 1 million. It fits our episode. Oh,
it's
that's
like
perfect
a gag
for
in a
this
Top
episode.
Secret, like this just giant clicker. It's like pressing it again and again.
It's got a little guy that comes out and flips a thing over when you go close up. That's funnier than a movie we were going to talk about in a little bit. All right.
2 movies we're going to talk about.
Oh, geez. August 31st, Venezuela President Carlos Perez flees. I don't know where to. It just said he flees.
Good riddance.
Or maybe it's like,
he did.
flees.
He had fleas. Yeah, that
Yes.
might be good.
On September 1st, Goran Ivanišević and Daniel Nestor play a 2010 tiebreaker in their first U.S. Open round match, eventually won by Ivanišević. The longest tiebreak in U.S. Open history.
I was hoping it'd be ping pong, but okay. U.S. Open.
I'm just like, if it's not Agassi and Sampras at this time, I don't know who
the
you guys
tennis
are.
doesn't matter.
Who?
Team Boris Becker.
Yeah. On September 2nd, at the 10th MTV Music Video Awards,
Go on.
Pearl Jam and En Vogue take home the most awards. This was the Jeremy year, the last, and when Pearl Jam decided to say, fuck MTV. They quit making videos. They went after Ticketmaster. They did everything they could to not be popular and became more popular. Like,
Well, we're never going to get it.
they didn't like that Jeremy was played every damn 10 minutes on MTV. That movie was about like a school massacre with a kid. Do you remember that?
Does he shoot
video?
at the school or does he just kill himself?
They don't. I think he shoots. They don't show a weapon. They don't show. They just show like the kids are like. So
Fair.
maybe he does kill himself in front of the class because the lyric is Jeremy spoke in class today. Maybe spoke means, that. But it's a really very.
I haven't seen this video. It sounds like a ride. Who did it? McGee, Hype Williams.
Well, I often, not joke because it's not really funny, but certain age when you realize that Janie's got a gun isn't about gun control.
Yeah. 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 That.
Sorry.
What did you
smash that subscribe button?
Smash that subscribe button. I'm trying to find. Oh, Mark Pellington is the director of Jeremy.
I was trying to find it. Yeah, Mark Pellington.
He directed Arlington Road and the Mothman Prophecies. He played Freddy in Almost Famous. Remember Freddy?
Of course.
No, it's been a while.
No, I know who Mark Pellington is. Yeah.
Yeah. So that is the director of Pearl
Is he
Jam.
the one that
Jeremy.
almost, but then didn't direct The Wolfman?
No, that's Romanek.
Fire. Apologies. Carry on.
Mark Romanek. You're on the right track.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's still doing music videos too for people that'll do them. He did Homicide: Life on the Street, Scott. He did Blood Ties Part 3, Season 6, Episode 3.
Classic.
Blood Ties. Oh, that was the James Earl Jones Season 6 premiere?
There you go. Oh, wow. Okay.
which was probably their worst season.
Oh, wow. At least he took home that video music award. VMA. That's what they.
And
That's
that was the one
A
year that
moon
Andre,
man, some would
a
call
moon
it.
man. Yeah.
that was the one year Andre Brower finally won an Emmy for Homicide, because it was his last season as that character on the show. And it was, I would argue, again, I watched all 7 as they aired. It was probably the worst season of the show. Yeah, whatever, random.
All right. On September 2nd, Central African Republic ex-emperor Jean Bedel Bokassa was freed.
Good.
Yes.
It happened.
To kill again. That's probably gonna be very, very offensive if I look that up.
God.
I hope they take that and make it a gift for you.
Scott's like screaming. He's like, I want to spend more time with my family. Can you guys please get me like canceled, lose my job, make me delete Twitter? Like,
We're gonna get great stills from this
I
one too.
need to be
Scott
freed
being
from
like,
this life. That's what Scott's at here. But he's still here, so we know nobody's listening to the Summer of '93 at 30. So, or we'd have been done away with long ago. Or we're on a lot of mutes. Anyway, September 4th, New York Yankees pitcher Jim Abbott no hits the Cleveland Indians 4-0 at Yankee Stadium with one hand.
How's that for Major League?
He was the one. He had like what? He only had one hand or something. Like
You find this man. You find this man.
The perfect summer for a no-hitter. It tied in. They probably did a tie-in like Wendy's, Jim Abbott, and the Fugitive present. September 5th, Scott sighed some
I'm going to
relief.
hell.
Scott had a sigh of relief that morning reading the paper as he learned F. Murray Abraham was released from the hospital after a car accident.
Hmm.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Mozart's ghost getting revenge.
As he was released, Nuruddin Morcelli runs the world record mile at 3:44:39.
That's a fast mile.
Yeah.
That's faster than I can do it.
All right.
That's been beaten multiple times.
And now, those who left us this week, the deaths. Richard Jordan, the actor. Actor Eric Berry. Sculptor Hugh Lorimer. Writer and voice actor Clyde Adler. And cinematographer, for The Spy Who Loved Me, Claude Renoir.
Okay.
And we have 2 birthdays. Dominic Thiem, a tennis player, and Gigi Golightly, actress. Anybody know her?
Nope.
Go steadily.
Yeah, Go Steadily, Gigi Go Steadily. Oh, yes. All right. So
It's gonna be a long episode.
let's move on. Well, depends on some of these film conversations, because
Son
I
of
don't
a
know
Big Panther. Fuck it, move on.
that's where we are. Son of Pink Panther.
Roberto Benigni is an incurable loon. He's off the wall. See Benigni once, you'll be his fan forever. In Blake Edwards' Son of the Pink Panther, rated PG. Starts Friday at theaters everywhere.
Scott with
Boy,
the direct
this
segue.
movie's terrible.
All right. Directed, the final film from Blake Edwards. Written,
Oh, that's sad.
written by Maurice Richlin, Blake Edwards, and Madeline Sunshine. Sure wasn't shining over this film. Starring Roberto Benigni.
Hey, it's a me!
Yeah,
Hey, I'm a Jimajamoosh!
It's me. I stole Nick Nolte's Oscar.
Nights and weekends, I filmed this movie.
I'm the Pink Panther. Oh, yeah. Mystery. Also starring Herbert Lom, Claudia Cardinal. We're not doing it for every one of them.
Pinocchio movies.
Shabana Azmi, Deborah Ferrantino, Jennifer Edwards, Robert Davi, and Mark Schneider. Charles Dreyfus encounters Jacques Gambrelli, who reminds him painfully of Inspector Clouseau, the man who drove him insane. With good reason, Gambrelli is Clouseau's son. Don't put that in the papers. All right, guys. I need to lead off here. I had never seen a Pink Panther film before.
No.
Blind.
Okay.
Well, they're all uphill from
So,
here.
hold on. I remembered as a child There's the Pink Panther, the cartoon character, and he sold carpet for some reason. Remember, Scott? Carpet.
Vaguely.
There was carpet, or he sold the padding under the carpet. And there'd be like a Pink Panther movie would come on TV. I'd start it. There'd be the cartoon intro, and I'd be like, oh, and then it'd be like live action. Be like, what is this shit? And I turn it off. So I never really watched them. I put in to get a review copy of the Shout Factory put out a box set. They didn't send it to me, so I didn't see it. Well, when I did the mapping out of this, and I noticed the Son of Pink Panther was coming, I'm like, and it's the 9th film. I'm like, all right, throughout the summer of doing or throughout this series, I'm going to catch up. I'm going to watch all the Pink Panther movies. So I know where we're at.
Uh-huh. How'd that go?
I did it. I have seen some of the worst movies I may have ever seen. They get bad. There's one that should be fuck you, Blake. There's I know people are getting mad about like people getting like CG versions of dead people in movies, but you need to watch the one where he takes footage of Peter Sellers that's just like not there and makes a movie of it. And he's like, it's a tribute to my friend. It's like, no, okay, considering the two of them were feuding before he died. And the state was like, what the hell are you doing, Peter Sellers? Like, that's ickier than just like the state going, sure, animate him, like. But that happened. But there's one with like they're just like, screw you, we don't need you, Blake Edwards or Peter Sellers, and they get like, Catch-22.
Arkin.
I'm like, yeah,
Right.
He's Peter Sellers. What the? And that poor bat, like he goes through a movie that's just like, oh, he's trying. And people come and go, like there's a sort of aspect I liked about him. That's the travelogue James Bondy type thing. Like these are like shitty James Bonds at times. Because they're
shitty in like Flint's.
Yeah, shitty in like Flint's. There you go. There you go. And yeah, so I got through, and then I watched the Steve Martin ones.
No.
I have a question.
No.
Neither of them are good. But
No.
is that second one better than that first one?
No.
Because I had some giggles during it. But and they totally like that poor Emily Mortimer. Why is she always like second fiddle girl in movies when I'm like, she's like top? Like she's always like, well, this is my not as pretty as me friend, or look, she's got glasses, and I'm like, what is okay? So,
I can't tell you how much I hated those Steve Martin movies. Like there was never. I just couldn't stand them.
On paper, that sounds like it should not fail.
I guess, but like the first
Jean Reno doing comedy,
the first few seconds of seeing this, I'm like, this is not me. This is not a thing that I want to be a part of.
No.
And then they made a second
Jason
one.
Statham obviously agreed.
And you know what? This is probably going to be the thing that gets Summer of '93 like hate and canceled. But Mordecai's better than those.
Mordecai
is what you want of those done better. I'm sorry, but it is.
If the cast of that film could like stop getting into trouble, that would be awesome.
Yeah. The six of us.
That
Mordecai.
We're not even.
Like, what did McGregor do now?
I mean, us Mordecai fans were getting up to be able to say dozens, but we're still not there. Mordecai. So yeah, I have through the summer of '93 at 30 seen every Pink Panther film, and I am so glad I did not have to review that box set years later.
A terrible pledge to yourself.
The
first two are good.
Yeah, the second Shot in the Dark, is that the second one?
That's
the one.
That's the peak.
Yeah.
The first one's not even that interesting.
The first one's fine. The
it's got that classy 60s pastiche shit that go on that. It's fine. Watchable.
The first one has the benefit of being better than Casino Royale. Like it just gets
yeah.
a lot quicker.
What's the one of them had an all-timer opening sequence where it just like the camera followed through rooms and all sorts of stuff. I think it's Shot in the Dark. That's Shot in the Dark. So, yeah. That's the
Yes.
one. So if they ever release that thing by itself, I will own Shot in the Dark for sure.
Back in the, I guess, 80s and early 90s, when it was conventional wisdom that sequels were bad, that was considered an exception to the rule, and that it was a sequel that was just fucking awesome.
Yeah. Well, you know, what's funny is they used to always, there was some people called like the Halloween movies where it went through 4, 5, and 6, the Pink Panther run of Halloween movies, because it was Return, Revenge, and Curse. Those are better than, even at the worst. Those
I don't know
Halloween
how I
movies
didn't stick
rock.
that in my mind before, but that's
My
great.
God, you're not
That's
wrong.
real.
They're better than the Pink Panther sequels. That aren't Shot in the Dark. But anyways,
So obviously this new one, the latest one, or the Sun, you were like, finally a good one of these, right? That's what you landed on.
this one is awful. Like, this sucked. I watched this twice because I watched it early, and then we took a long time between recording, so I
You wanted to make
refreshed
sure to get
myself.
the details.
And I was like, oh yeah, it still sucks. I remembered this perfectly. Luckily it was background noise for me the second time. And they try to modernize it. They got the like acapella 90s theme going, like, and do all that stuff. Roberto Benigni, like, I don't understand, like, you're his son, here's the bat costume. Like, what the I don't know. I don't know where to begin. Like, I got Never Say Never Again flashbacks. Just the look of the movie looked like it at times. Like, it was like, oh, this is like a trashy knockoff. Someone should be making a Pink Panther movie, but it's Blake Edwards. Like, I'm just cashing in on Pink Panther movies for the rest of my life. That's what he does. Yeah, like I said, visually second unit from Never Say Never Again got called, it seems like. And then, like, there's like, oh, he's the son of Clouseau. Like, who gives a shit? Like, really, in this movie, like, in the world of this movie, why do people give a shit about this supposed bastard son of Clouseau? Like,
because they already used the words curse, revenge, and return.
Yeah, I guess so.
They could have done Pink Panther H3O.
I don't know. Robert Davi here is like potential wasted, because I always think he's a pretty good, in this era, he's like a top guy you call to get a villain, but I don't think the top people call him to get like, he lucks out here that, like, he's at the Bond.
Instead of Die Hard, kind of.
He's just an asshole for 2 seconds in Die Hard, but there's an opening him for to be like aces in a silly comedy like this, but just no, like, whatever they give him, whatever they're doing, huh?
He's mean.
He's mean, but there's a way to make a funny Robert Davi thing, and it's just nothing's happening. Nothing's happening, and I'm like, oh, maybe they'll do something clever here. Nope, not at all. It also feels like there's 2 separate movies going on, and then you tend to forget about the other one as it's happening. Yeah. This, I mean, and while I mentioned those other Pink Panther movies had that travelogue to them, this has none of that. It's ugly. Like, there's on boats and like inside too much. And then the finale, I got Hot Shots Part 2 flashbacks. Like, and that movie was genuinely more thrilling in its finale than this. And that was a spoof ass parody with dumb lines and Star Wars references and stuff. Like, yeah. And then the end, they're like, guess what? There's another dipshit that's here too. And I'm done talking about Pink Panther. Aaron, you want to go?
Mixed thoughts on the Son of Pink Panther.
Mixed positive. Yep. This is a series like super low point of the ones I watched. Yeah.
I've seen the first Pink Panther and Shot in the Dark, and then I've like seen scattered pieces of the others because I just realized I have better things to do. Hey, that's not going to enhance the Son of Pink Panther in any way whatsoever. And then we don't need to talk about the Martin movies anymore. So like Shot in the Dark, legit great. Like, I'm all about that movie. So that's, so, you know, I get that this had a reputation going into it, which I had not seen before. So I'm thinking, let's watch this Son of Pink Panther and see like what's gonna come out of this. Like, Benigni can be fun. Like, sure, maybe the rest of the movie just has like is lacking. Since these Pink Panther movies, I think an interesting aspect of them is that Clouseau is only sometimes the main character. Like, he's often like a very large presence, but not necessarily the drive of the stories. It's like, maybe we'll do something clever here. It doesn't do that. It's this is a real misstep, to say the least, as far as what can be offered, which is a shame because it's like, okay, bring the Pink Panther to the new, era. That's a novel approach. Benigni, sure, okay, that's wild. Let's see what we're doing with him. But it just misses every opportunity to kind of do anything after the opening theme, which I actually quite like. I enjoy the theme that they do for this, just because I like the original Mancini score so much anyway. So it's like, yeah, all right, cool. Here's a fun new modern version. That's something. And then it just quickly like dissipates any kind of relative level of enjoyment. It's not funny. It's not clever. Yeah, the mystery's not compelling. The whatever you want to call set pieces don't do anything of note here. It's cheap looking, despite having these areas that they're filming in that would ideally provide at least some kind of interesting location work to deal with. There's nothing here that's special at all that would make you think, oh yeah, finally revisiting the Pink Panther. Thank you, son of Pink Panther. No, this is not that movie. It's just a depressing slog because nothing's worse than a comedy that's not funny, which we'll talk about again in this episode.
It's more like the son of the Alan Arkin Pink Panther. That's what it should be. But Scott, so you said this is the best one.
Clearly I did, but no, it's terrible. It's exactly, I did briefly, vaguely remember seeing it when it was on HBO or whatever back in, I guess it would have been like 94, because usually it was a longer window. And even when I was 13, 14, whatever, I knew it was terrible. It wasn't funny. The tone was random. The film opens with a machine gun massacre.
I don't think being a youngster would necessarily help you be like, oh yeah, I'm a kid. I don't know any better. I think kids would be like, why is this happening to me?
Exactly. It's even then, it's like, obviously I didn't know who Benigni was because this was 6 years before Life is Beautiful, but it's boring. It's haphazard. It's undisciplined. It is, as you said, it's like, oh boy, it's his son. Who gives a shit? And to my recollection, in the movies, it's not like he's a celebrity or anything. I could be mistaken.
No, they do treat him like the world's greatest detective or France's greatest detective. So like he's known, but like no one would give a shit about this son. Like, just.
You could have watched Down by Law and been hip to Benigni and be like, oh, finally, we're up against the big leagues, son of Pink Panther.
No, I mean, it's as generic and paint by numbers as you would expect from a movie like this that has no reason to exist except to extend the life of the IP. It was, for all I know, it was a keep the rights kind of issue.
Yeah, MGM was sitting there in between Bond movies being like, I guess we got to make a Pink Panther to get that money rolling.
Well, they were waiting on those Bond rights to come back. They were like, get a Pink Panther going.
Maybe just because there's a few actors in each of those that I do like, but I think this is worse than the Steve Martin ones.
Yeah.
By default. And look, I mean, there are a few bits in those films I find amusing. Yeah. And, Clive Owen is not Bond is a very fun inside joke that I appreciated then and now. But yeah, it's a garbage movie.
Yeah, it's dumpy. Like this is, like it's funny. Like this is one of the worst ones. I don't think it's worth ranking anyone, but you can say, yeah, this is the bottom. This is the pits. And I don't know what other than Shot in the Dark. And it's funny because we always talk about, and this is true, the Pink Panther, that the second film is the one that sets the tone for what really the franchise is. And you watch that first one caught me by surprise because like Clouseau is like a very secondary character.
Not very much.
Yes.
Not very much in it. And then then Shot in the Dark is what it becomes. But I think I had more fun watching the Alan Arkin one than I did this Son of Pink Panther one. And it's just bad. And we don't need to spend more time on it.
Boo.
Let's talk about the TV shows this week.
You loved him on Night Court, and now he's back. John LaRoquette is back to take over the strangest night spot in town. People did that? Bears, I could imagine, but people? Four-time Emmy winner John LaRoquette is back on NBC. Hey, how you doing? Tuesdays this fall.
So we got What is in our final TV ratings, Nielsen ratings? What was number one?
I mean, if, unless it's a Home Improvement rerun, I'm what, like 2020 or something like that.
What, listener? Oh, Home Improvement. Yes.
Number
one. Number one. Number two.
Yes. Roseanne?
The premiere of the John Larroquette show.
I watched that show. I watched the show.
I
remember that. Yeah, I started up with it. Number 3 is 60 Minutes on CBS. Number 4 is Roseanne on ABC. We have a 3-way tie at 5 with Primetime Live on ABC, Seinfeld on NBC, 2020 on ABC. Number 8 has a tie with Coach on ABC and Unsolved Mysteries on NBC. And number 10, 48 Hours on CBS. So those news programs are just like aces. The internet really screwed that up, didn't it? Like those news program and probably cable news. But those news programs were top 10 gold here. They weren't. I mean, you had one of them. I think 60 Minutes showed up a few times in '82, but that was the only journalism program that appeared in those ratings. And right here, they are bam. And that's, I think, right now is also about time the Inside Editions and shows like that are starting to hit big too. So those might start taking away from those stories as well.
Do we have a 2020 anymore? We don't, right? That's not a thing.
I don't think we do. With Bob Walters, I'm Hugh Downs.
They're like specials though, like for some things every now and again, right?
Yeah. Because 2020 was like Walters, Downs, they were the main hosts, and then there was always you stayed for the John Stossel report, whatever that dude was doing. What's he doing? And then he went like hardcore Republican all of a sudden. That's all he does now. But yeah, I used to watch 2020. It was on Friday nights after TGIF.
Yeah, so it's like boring. Can we turn this off? No, I was watching.
Well, Cody wasn't back on Step by Step this week, and I'm not watching
for clearly Puritan reasons, and that's all.
Right. So yeah, but I would watch. They had stories that interest me and stuff, but yeah. But my news magazine show was Unsolved Mysteries, so that's what I.
Booyah!
That show rules. All right, so we will move on to our second film, Calendar Girl.
Booyah!
I love you. I love you more than I've loved any woman. I'm a man on my knees.
On September 3rd,
it's Marilyn time.
Make a date.
Hello, is Marilyn home?
With Jason Priestley.
Marilyn! I don't rest until she's mine.
In the year's most romantic adventure.
I wanted to say I'm the greatest lover she ever had.
Calendar Girl, rated PG-13. At theaters Friday.
Not a superhero movie, folks. I know some of you young listeners have been like, I don't remember a Calendar Girl or a movie about Calendar Girl. No, this is the one directed by John Whitesell and written by Paul W. Shapiro, starring Jason Priestley, Gabrielle Olds, Jerry O'Connell, Joe Pantoliano. He's back.
Hey,
twice in a month, right? Steve Rail's back. Kurt Fuller, Stephen Tobolowsky, Emily Warfield, Maxwell Caulfield, Christine Taylor, Chubby Checker, and Tuesday Night also appear in this film. Penny Marshall produced it, and Hans Zimmer did the score. 3 young men go on an end-of-the-summer trip to Hollywood, California. Their quest to fulfill the fantasy of meeting Marilyn Monroe. Whitesell, he's directing Coach at this time, and Roseanne and Blossom in a Different World. So he is taking a break for the summer, making a movie. He went on to direct such classics as See Spot Run, Malibu's Most Wanted, Deck the Halls, Hot in Cleveland, Girl Meets World, and his most recent success, Holiday.
Oh.
Yeah.
Little Italy was better.
Yeah. There you go. So, Scott, let's talk about Calendar Girl. Did you save the date?
I thought it was a perfectly fine example of what it was trying to be. It's a low-key, relatively grounded coming-of-age drama. It's light. I mean, it's not particularly morose, even though there are moments of drama. I thought, it was well acted. It was well performed. I mean, I don't have that much to say about it because, and I don't even mean this as a criticism, it's a very slight picture. It's a what you see is what you get film. I mean, it's I guess it was notable for having Jason Priestley in a lead role at sort of the height of the 90210 popularity. But yeah, it's cute, it's harmless. It came and went like a candle in the wind.
It's a kind way of saying boring. Aaron.
Movie fucking sucks. This movie's nonsense. This is a nonsense story. It's the fact that Jerry O'Connell is in this makes me feel bad. Where it's like he went from Stand By Me to like this nonsense coming of age travesty. It's the well acted. Jason Priestley doesn't lead more movies after this for a good reason. This is not a movie that's like, oh, finally a hidden gem full of wonderful little performances. This is broadly done. It's like there's this whole subplot involving the mob that's fucking dumb. It's the amount of movies that you can trace back that it's like, I guess we got to throw in like a mob gun subplot for some reason. Why is this movie about teenage boys looking for Marilyn Monroe being like, I guess we should put like guns in this at some point. Like, this is dumb. It's a dumb movie. Like, there's nothing adorable about this set of guys that are like purely into Marilyn Monroe for no other reason other than the fact that she's Marilyn Monroe. There's no depth there whatsoever. That's not me asking for this to have any greater depth, but at the same time, it's like, if you want to like have the narration and have the period detail and give me quirks about these characters, including Jerry O'Connell who has a fake leg, like, give me a reason why I should like these guys beyond them just being random horn dogs from the 50s that have anything to say about anything going on in the world right now. They don't. There's nothing here. This is as thin as it gets, and it doesn't help that yes, it's these are ridiculous performances. They're just broad stereotypes. You have what, Stephen Tobolowsky and who's the other one?
Kurt Fuller.
Fuller,
I put that in. I'm like, known tough guy actors.
Kurt Fuller, the ultimate tough guys. Kurt Fuller and Stephen Tobolowsky.
It's good to see them stretch.
And Kurt Fuller, who got like in trouble because he was playing a deaf character. It's like, this is nonsense. All of this stuff. Joe Pants, of course, is the saving grace because he's Joe fucking Pants. But there's nothing else about this movie that's redeemable. Nothing.
Dude, I died when Kurt Fuller and Stephen Tobolowsky showed up as the mods laughing, and then they stayed the whole movie and kept trying to present them as tough.
Yeah, there's more of them.
I was like, they're like Tobin Bell and what's his name from The Firm, where they are these tough guys, but they're known as tough in other movies, but the movie struggles to present them as tough. And then this is these two goofballs and other things that are like being shown as tough.
I thought it was fun to watch them in that kind of character.
And
to be fair, because I knew them, because we've seen them in 10,000 other things.
Yeah.
If I had watched this, as just two random character actors I had recognized, it probably wouldn't have had that entertainment value. But yeah, I mean, appropriate or not, it was fun to watch them play these kind of characters because they so rarely get to do that.
No, I do, like, again, it's because they have to play these mob characters where it's like in the midst of all this happening, somehow there needs to be like the threat of violence lurking around the corner. Like, why? What? Like, it's just, and like in such a random way. It's not like Kiefer and Stand By Me where he's just like a rival boy who's a bully. Like, it's like the mob. Like, what?
There's a lot of that in 80s, 90s comedies. I mean,
that's why a lot of 80s, 90s comedies are bad and don't age well. That's why you're not looking at Blank Check and being like, oh yeah, it was a real dream to watch that kid spend a bunch of money while the mob was after him. That's a nonsense movie. How much Miguel Ferrer and Tone Loki throw at me? That movie's nonsense.
Yeah, the mob stuff like feels just so like why can't they just casually take their trip to find Marilyn?
Yeah.
Why can't they just go to find Marilyn, have trouble getting past Hollywood barriers, and like, I don't know that like there's a fun idea.
Because then we wouldn't get to see Fuller and Tabowski playing tough guys, and that
why can't
would be
they play
poor for that.
guys working at the studio that give them a hard time?
They're like security for Maryland or so any number of things.
Like this movie has a cute idea. Like for back then in the 1993, it has this cute idea, and it's like then they overdo it, like they overcomplicate it with like, well, we need like a threat. We need a threat for them. Like, and then it culminates in this like fake shooting. And Joey Pants, summer of '93, master of disguise and wigs. I will say that because he has not looked the same in his movies. But yeah, so there's that factor. There's also this weird like desire to like catch that like Wonder Years magic with the narrator that's obviously trying to sound like Daniel Stern from the Wonder Years. He's got the cadence down. He's like, and back in the 1950 when we were just lads, we had our calendars.
It was the end,
and they had girls
of
on
the
them.
Innocence.
We went and saw a movie, and it was some liked it, some thought it was hot, but we thought maybe we could go. We left around. My buddy Jerry O.C. and then Jason P. Like, it was I was like, stop it. Like, it didn't need the narration at all. Like, we didn't need to look back. The narration was only there because, like, someone might mistake our main character for Jason Priestley. Like, that, it's weird to not have Jason Priestley be the main. Like, the movie obviously focuses on this guy, cuts everybody else's dialogue and scenes around making this guy the star. He's been on 90210 for years, so it's not like he just got discovered and we need to make this movie around him. They cast him in the part, and this is when they were trying to launch like Luke Perry and Shannon Doherty and get those people some big gigs.
It all worked.
But yeah, there's also something I had this realization of when I was watching this movie. There's a nostalgia for filmmakers of this time, for like that 50s era and the 60s, and there's this like lighting they use a lot of the time where it makes people look angelic or heavenly and polished and stuff, and that happens here a lot. And I'm like, that's crazy. Like, because like, why is that the go-to for all these filmmakers, making them look like, oh, look how glossy
it's the same bullshit logic.
Everything was clean in the 50s, new, and like, and just like
you get that sheen, just like you put the brown filter on whenever you go to anything that's outside of America that happens to not be Europe. Like, it's just like, oh yeah, that's what it's supposed to look like. I guess it's just nonsense.
Yeah, like I was like, there's stuff like, I'm like, there's a good movie in this somewhere, and you guys didn't make it. Like, I don't know what you did. Like, there's this cute story of these idiot guys going, like, thinking they can meet Marilyn Monroe, and then one goes on an awkward like drive with her.
Yeah,
I'm like, this is gross. Like, and they get pulled by the cops, and she's like, oh, and all this, and the police incompetence. Like, is this movie trying to make a statement on cops, or is it incidentally making a statement on cops?
Incidentally,
because like there's the cop that's bribed by Marilyn Monroe, and then there's like the cops that shoot somebody, or like pull gun. Like, I don't think they realize what they're showing here.
This is my week with Marilyn by way of Dude, Where's My Car?
Yeah. Yeah,
that actually makes it sound better than it actually is.
Yeah. Well, then there's
both of those movies are bad.
By the time we get to the end of this thing, I'm like, how did this trip change their lives? Like, what did we learn? And then they get this line like, nothing ever happens if you don't show up.
Like the whole like the book ending of the movie is what the main non-Priestley character that's not Jerry O'Connell, because I can't remember this for the life of me. Like, he's like watching like people shove themselves into a phone booth because it's like, like, look at these guys. Oh, this reminds me of that time where I did that stupid trip with my friends.
Yeah, and he goes and just like, hi, I'm this guy, and we're just like, man, you thought kids on their phones were bad. Now look what they just stuffed each other into phone booths, copped feels and shit.
And keep in mind, months earlier in the spring, The Sandlot came out. A better movie about the 50s that has nostalgic things to say and has characters that you like and antics that are fun to follow.
Yeah. Oh, and then if it doesn't end there, because we get some kind of like hits sizzle from the movie during the credits.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Because because our movie might not have been memorable. Here's a brush up before you go to the car.
The credits are. It's not a blooper reel. It's just scenes that you just saw in the movie edited in a different way, so you can recall.
So I say on the way to the car, you didn't. In case you forgot our forgettable movie, here's what happened.
Here's a recap. Presented out of order with music over it.
Yeah. Scott, I'm glad you got another House of Cards before summer of '93 ended.
Honestly, I didn't have anything resembling strong feelings about it either way.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, that's nice, whatever.
Yeah.
Good critic.
I watched the movie and I was just like, this is kind of boring, dull. And then the further I got from it, I was like, God, it started hitting me. The more like, you shouldn't have done the sizzle. That made me remember. And I don't know. I just had a lot of I was like, okay, I never saw this one back then. I remember like there was Entertainment Tonight made a big deal about this movie. I think it was mainly because Priestley, Beverly Hills 90210 taken off. I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. Did play with me. I meant to rent it. I never did. I saw it now and I'm like,
It's not a matter of wanting to have strong opinions about this, Scott. It's just if I have to deal with these nonsense movies that that many of them have this random cult audience where they're sitting there being like, oh yeah, Calendar Girl, that was one of the movies when I grew up. I watched it. It's on Netflix now. That's number one. Then it's a random hit versus this movie is always terrible. There's no reclaiming it. There's not there. It's very lazy. It's a bad movie. I don't want to exist in this world where we promote everything that's mediocre because I watched it when I was young and it was fine. So yeah, I'm taking my stance here.
Oh, I had never seen this one before.
I'm just saying I'm taking my stance here, not just passing it over, knowing
it will not be good actually.
I had seen this before for some reason. It was probably on TV or some point.
Oh wow, okay.
I seen a good portion of it. So when you said Calendar, I was like, what's that? And I looked up what it was. I've seen some of this movie, and I was yeah, this was not a thing.
Oof, not good. Well, okay for Scott, not good.
Yeah.
So, is it no House of Cards or is it better than House of Cards? Where are we at with this one?
Oh, House of Cards I think is interesting, as problematic and whatever as it is. This is just meh, whatever.
All right, so it's no House of Cards.
No.
All right. So
few things are. So we'll move on here to our Casey Kasem Top 40, the final Top 40 for our 93 summer.
Casey's biggest hits.
The final number one, jumping up here, Can't Help Falling in Love by UB40.
Hey, finishing it off.
Funny enough, number two, Dream Lover by Mariah Carey.
Both
videos Abe talked about on the show. So number three, Whoop, There It Is by Tag Team. Number four, staying at number four, Lately by Jodeci. Staying at number five, Runaway Train by Soul Asylum, which that music video episode was a doozy. If you like Unsolved Mysteries, it's pretty good when we talked about it. Moving up one spot to number six, Janet Jackson's If. So she is here at the end as she was in the beginning. Moving up to number seven from number 11, Right Here, Human Nature. It's a SWV song remixed with a Michael Jackson tune.
Okay.
I believe we talked about it the previous. So just Friday ago, you heard me and Jennifer Rayford talk about that music video. Coming up this Friday, you'll hear us, me and Press Maxon, talking about Will You Be There from Michael Jackson from the Free Willy soundtrack. Number 9, sliding down, but staying in the top 10 for the end. I'm Gonna Be 500 Miles by the Proclaimers. And our final, at number 10, sliding one spot, If I Had No Loot by Tone E. All right. Which that means, to quote the Fred Savage movie, The Wizard, our next movie we're going to talk about is California.
Brian Kessler's investigating serial killers.
The victim returns to the scene of the crime.
What he doesn't know.
How many people you seen me kill, Brad?
Is that early grace
Boys will be boys.
is the expert.
gonna write a book about something you don't know nothing about.
Does it make you feel good? Powerful?
Brad Pitt, Juliette Lewis.
I feel good.
California, rated R, starts Friday.
Directed by Dominic Sena, written by Stephen Levy, Tim Metcalf, starring David Duchovny, Michelle Forbes, Brad Pitt, and Juliette Lewis. A journalist duo go on a tour of serial killer murder sites with two companions, unaware that one of them is a serial killer. So Dominic Sena, he's a guy I've talked about his music videos. Now I'm talking about the film he directed. So he directed a music video this summer. I directed another one I talked about earlier on the show. So he has been a presence here on the Brandon Peters Show, talking about his work. So I will leave it to you. Who wants California first? Scott, go with California.
I've always liked this picture. It always, even though it was like a year beforehand, it's always felt like without getting to better or worse here, sort of the grounded, more realistic version of what Natural Born Killers would do. Obviously, they both start Juliette Lewis in a skewed coincidence, or maybe just being typecast.
This is where she starts getting typecast.
Yeah. But no, I like the film quite a bit. Although, I mean, and this is just me being nitpicky. I mean, is he really a serial killer, or is he just an asshole who occasionally kills people when he feels like it?
If your numbers get up to a certain amount, you are a serial killer.
And it is a kind of a pattern.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's a certain grungy plausibility to the whole picture. I mean, it's yes, he's played by Brad Pitt, but it certainly isn't Troy Brad Pitt. And in that sense, this character is probably more realistic than most cinematic serial killers. He's not John Doe or Hannibal Lecter, whatever. And, the film works in terms of, Duchovny's character being sort of, partially blind to the obvious, one might argue. But otherwise, it's an earlier look at the notion of people that grew up in an age when serial killers were prevalent enough that they would have curiosity-induced fandoms, or just sort of morbid curiosity in terms of, I want to study this, and I want to learn what makes them tick, and they're very deep and interesting people. And in the end, he's just an asshole with issues. And with, a rage control problem. He's a controlling misogynist. I mean, it's the joke of the movie is that he's really not that deep. He's just a dick. Everyone is very good in this picture. It's a very, sorry, I'm losing my train of thought here. It's a character study. And I think it stands out among the many, many serial killer-ish movies that came out after Silence of the Lambs, in that it doesn't feel particularly conventionally exciting or glamorous or vivacious. It's a certain, almost a skewed almost an answer to that glamorization that we were seeing in much of the mid 90s through the late 90s, where it's just a nasty, mean little movie that just feels, by virtue of its plausibility, feels a lot more engrossing than a lot of the conventional serial killer thrillers that I'm repeating myself. I saw this once when it was on HBO. Roger Ebert really liked it, so it was one that I was looking forward to when it popped up after theaters. This is the first time I had seen it since then, so it's been 20-some years. And in retrospect, it does work as, even early in his career, Brad Pitt is trying to sort of de-glamorize himself, whether he's a character actor trapped in Robert Redford's body. And this is, even before Legend of the Fall, this could be considered sort of a killing Tristan, whatever his name's, type picture. And I'm going to stop talking for now. But yeah, I've always liked this film in terms of how it stands out from the films in the genre that we got during this period of time. as sort of like the real world answer to the more sensationalistic pictures.
Okay, Aaron.
I like this movie overall. I rented it back in, I want to say 2099. I think it was after Gone in 60 Seconds and before Swordfish came out, as far as, so I was trying to just catch up on Cena. And I hadn't seen it. I was like, oh, that's interesting. There's a Duchovny Pitt movie about serial killers. So I saw it then, and I hadn't seen it since. And I've largely heard it derided since then, as far as Pitt's performance goes, and just the nature of the story. To the point where I'm like, did I like this movie? And so I finally watched it for this, obviously, and I think it holds up fine. I'm not quite with Scott as far as how grounded it feels. I do think it's, by nature it feels gritty because they're on the road and it's dirty and stuff. But I do still think it's pretty sensationalized as far as just the premise and the outcome of things, and the fact that while Pitt is certainly trying to play into the idea of being a character actor, he's still playing it big. It's a big performance. It's not his best version of this. He gets better as he goes along. I mean, 12 Monkeys gets an Oscar nomination, although I'd argue that's also very big and not necessarily one of his best performances either. But that's here nor there. He is effective, though, as far as in the realm of crazy serial killer characters in this time frame. Yeah, sure, he fits in with Woody Harrelson and Buffalo Bill and the others. Like, there's something there that makes him memorable. Like, yes, it's this kind of dirty asshole version as opposed to this elaborate killer man who skins people, or whatever Oliver Stone is going for in Natural Born Killers. I thought I like more than this, but it's its own thing.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, this feels like the midway point between something like those movies and Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer, where that's a movie that's brutal. That's a movie that's brutal and down to the earth. No, beyond like the fact that they're doing these heinous crimes, there's no.
You have to take a shower after you see
that feels like a thing that
I think that movie's great, but yeah,
that feels like a thing that exists and was happened to be filmed. Like, that's the difference there. Where this movie, it still feels like cinema. That's not a detractor or whatnot, but I mean, it's just, you have a road trip with people that happen to be killers. That's a gimmick. I mean, but it's effective. It works. I do like the cast. I think they're all effective in their own way. It is weird that Juliette Lewis gets typecast because she doesn't play Mallory Knox at all in this movie. She just plays an innocent that happens to be hooked up with this, this crazy man. Where that movie, she's as nuts as Woody Harrelson is in that movie. So it's interesting, and because she plays the nicest character in this film that just happens to have gone the wrong way. But yeah, I mean, it's like a calling card movie for Senna. It does what it needs to. Like, it presents something that it does feel different. It does have a different sort of attitude. It's effective. It moves. It feels like a movie that comes from like this 90s era in a good way, as far as the kinds of things you see from these music video directors that are on the rise. David Fincher's a key one, obviously. Like, this feels like a product of that in a good way. So, I can see why it would gain a following of sorts. I know Ebert gave it 4 stars. I can see why it would garner a certain kind of following, despite the fact that it's, not a huge movie in the realm of like everybody saw California when it came out. But I think it does the job that it's ultimately trying to do.
Well, so for me, this movie I saw it in college, came recommended to me from those same people who told you Boondock Saints was really awesome. That's
why you love both of these movies.
Yeah. And they were like, oh, it's Brad Pitt's best performance, ignore everything else. And I'm like, well, he's memorable here. He's overdoing it. And it's just like trying too hard, a bit, but it's fine because he's got the 3 actors around him that help it out a lot. I'm very like indifferent on this movie. Like, I'm not like, but I'm just like, I think it's like a bit overhyped or something, or appreciated in points, but Cena is killing it. Like, he's like, technical levels of this movie are awesome. Like, the cinematography, the way they block out some scenes and stuff are easy to watch.
Looks like the guy that made Whiteout,
yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. Easy to watch there. Duchovny, he's got X-Files in like a month that's gonna drop here from this movie. But like, it's funny because times have changed, like, since this movie came out. The things that are interesting and edgy here are tired now. Because he's like this interesting guy at the party because he knows a lot of stuff that nobody's into, and this is the stuff a lot of people talk about, like now. And I'm always Michelle Forbes, big fan of hers. So anytime she comes in, like she can read a phone book. She's she's someone who's never been overused, and I think that's her own doing.
What is she? Because I know she's like in Spartacus for a season, like True Blood. What's like other stuff that she does?
She was in that show, the Killing redo. She did Battlestar Galactica. She
That's
shows
it.
up for little things. Like she was at this time, she had been in Star Trek: The Next Generation for a few seasons, and they offered her the lead on Deep Space Nine. She was supposed to be, and then she declined it, and then their part got rewritten and given to Nana Visitor. Which was a great character in its own, so it worked out well. But she recently reprised her role in Picard for the final season of that. But she gets things, she gets noted in that, and then bails. Like that's what her career looked like, because she probably likes to work on different things and doesn't want
an actor like that.
Yeah, she likes to be in different parts. So that's one thing people don't understand. Like, oh, Chris Evans, you gonna go back to Captain America? Probably fucking not. He probably wants to do other things and not have to like work out 3 times a day and watch what he eats. like it's not that they're actors. They want to do
Ghosted 2 finally. Jeez, guys.
I know. I wish they could all be Knives Out, but unfortunately he's making Ghosteds. So
unfortunately indeed.
Yeah. But it's got like some now generic serial killer voiceover monologues and stuff that probably played as edgy and interesting back then, that now I'm just like, okay. I will say this movie has a really haunting scene in it to me that just, like Scott's talking about grounded and real stuff. And I think the scene that nails it is when he kills those cops, because that is like, it's way like he's just running shoot. Like he's this wild card lunatic. And it's like, the cops can't prepare for that. They don't know they have to keep some semblance of like law, justice, and order in a specific like checklist manner. And he's just not even hitting shit, but he manages to take him down.
That's why it's frustrating. Like, it's like I see where you're coming from, because I'm a little above you, but it's as far as how much I like it. But I'm also like, if you have a scene like that, don't Hollywood the ending. Like,
well, let me get to it.
Mm-hmm.
Because they have that. I think there's a more interesting in this version of this movie, because the way it's written like somehow David Duchovny is going to be converted from this and join Pitt. Like, and it does I'm the good. Like, I feel like Duchovny's interested in following the footsteps to learn more and stuff. And I feel there's a more interesting movie, this version, where he's lost to him and Michelle Forbes is fucked and has to figure a way to like get away herself.
That sounds like a more interesting movie. Yes.
That's where I think, and then he's got to be the good guy and all that. And and it comes in the scene with the cops, and it's that really interesting point where he could do it because he wants to, but he can also say he had no choice. And then Michelle Forbes is gonna be like, who's this guy I'm with for a bit? And then you gotta, maybe they commit another murder together, and that's where you get into Henry.
There's stuff there. There's
territory.
like the steps are there to take those choices. That's why it's like, this could be better.
And
that's why I think Natural Born Killers is a better, but beyond the fact that it's obviously doing a bunch of different shit.
It gets to a point where Juliette Lewis is almost written too dumb, where she's like, oh, he's like, he was breathing when I walked out of there. And she's like, oh, see, it's okay. He was breathing. He still shot the fucking dude.
I get, but she's playing it like
that is a type.
It's like Jennifer Jason Leigh in Miami Blues, where she wants to leave the best.
But
I get what that role is.
At the point this movie happens, the point that happens, what she knows, what she sees is, and at the end too, like Michelle Forbes, like, fuck David, she should not be in the ending, or she should show up to be like, or something. Like, there's no way that she's like, whoo, we got through that together. I'd be like, bitch, I'm out. Because she, at many points in this movie, is like, nah.
Yeah, because I do think, like, the final moment, like, there's a better version, like we've been saying. It has the steps to get there. Like, it kills a couple cops. It kills one of the main characters in this movie. It kills 2 of the main characters in this movie. It could go further.
Yeah,
and it's like I don't need a movie to make, like, I'm not saying make me depressed movie and then you'll be better, but it's like the way it's set up, it's like
And this isn't a blockbuster. This was not shot as a block. This is not a big wide release. It can do those things.
Anything by going soft.
Yeah, it can. It does not need to follow those things. But yeah, so like I'll say this is the most interesting movie we talk about this week for sure. But like yeah, and it's not like of the worst. Like it's just like I think my thing with this and my indifference is like I see a better or a more pushing the limits version that I want of it than what I'm getting. What I'm getting is not bad, but it's safer. I don't know if that's where, because this movie does do some chance things, but yeah, it's
Is this Santa's best movie? I assume so, right?
Oh God, probably by default.
Yeah.
Is there a Season of the Witch? His last movie, by the way, that was 2011.
Oh God.
I haven't watched Swordfish in forever, so
I have a. It's not because that's a stupid term, but I have a soft spot for Swordfish. It does certain things that I enjoy because it's so dumb.
Yeah,
there's that bus scene. It's fun.
I mean, this movie's style. It feels like a hungry director.
All of his movies are very much emphasis on the visuals. Like he knows where to put the camera. That's
yeah. Things feel. I mean, this movie feels big.
Like Gone in 60 Seconds, a movie people like way more than I do. That movie's nothing, but it looks nice.
It's an action movie with almost no action. Fun.
Yeah.
But he has to drive cars.
Once.
So I will say, I did make a note when I was, I said that this movie does feel long.
It's a little shaggy.
Yeah,
because it's depressing. Like it's not fun to be like, oh, we're still on this trip. Like it's
Yeah,
I do like it. Very much does feel like Silence of the Lambs popular, Thelma and Louise popular. Put those hands together. Let's see what we got.
Yeah. Oh no, yeah, that's true.
That's why someone backed this. Like, well, those two movies were hits.
Oscars and hits. Oh,
we get the Pitt in here also.
Well, this is what's he coming off? A True Romance?
Pitt?
Yeah.
This year.
No, True Romance is in a couple weeks, actually.
Oh, it's a couple weeks.
Yeah,
okay.
And it's not like he's a huge presence in that movie.
No. I would say, like, what else is he at here?
Cool World? What's going on?
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, that was the previous summer.
The Cool World?
Cool World. Yeah. He was the guy in the Kim Basinger movie.
The other guy. Because Gabriel Byrne's like the lead of that movie, isn't he?
Is he? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
well,
he's
Brad Pitt was on the poster.
Brad Pitt, well, because he's Brad Pitt. No one wants to see Gabriel Byrne on a poster and be like, oh yeah.
This is a horror movie. Nope. Brad Pitt's on the poster. It's not a horror movie. Good. So.
Hey, Brian's the reason.
A river runs through it. That's the one before this.
Okay.
Oh yeah, that's basically what started to put him on the Thelma and Louise, obviously, but
Thelma and Louise is the breakout because like, who's this hot man? That's holding up stuff.
He's like, oh, he reminds me of Robert Redford. Oh, he's now with Robert Redford. How subtext meets text.
See, and I also think that this movie and True Romance I can totally see him being the guy that he's being portrayed as in Living in Oblivion in these two movies.
Oh, sure.
Like, I'm like, that's probably the movies that whoever wrote that movie saw or experienced him on with what they got that. So yeah. So Kalifornia with a K. It's K. But yeah, this one you probably heard of, seen, or whatever. It's readily available now. Yeah, it's an interesting one to check out for sure. So, you know who else is interesting to check out?
Who?
Yancey Burns with One Final Tale from the Video Store.
Warning. This television commercial cannot show the terrifying transformation sequence from The Beast Within. The filmmakers strongly suggest that those who may be shocked by this unique and horrifying movie use caution when seeing the film. You have been warned. The Beast Within. Rated R.
I had a copy of the Beast Within.
Yeah.
I had a copy of The Beast. There was a chain in LA in the 90s called Odyssey Video.
Yeah.
And one of my friends who's been mentioned in this also worked at Odyssey Video for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And I rented this out on his he gave me this as a free rental, The Beast
Okay.
Within, and I took it and I never gave it back to him. And the whole chain closed maybe 2 years later. And I never had to, that was a bad thing. I never had to pay for that. I never had to pay $80 for The Beast Within. I did have to buy it, though. I bought it on DVD and Blu-ray. So I've and I don't really like it that much. So I've done my penance. Amazing. It's amazing how this small group of friends weave through these video stores.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that until tonight. I should write it down somewhere.
Gotcha. You write a book. There's a video store called Family Video, which is known for its porno section. Yeah, the saloon doors, and they were one of the last remaining video stores. I rented
Yes.
Runaway Jury one time from there, and I just never returned it. And I kept I had it, and then it got to a point where it was gone so long I was afraid to return it. I was like, I don't want the anger of these people when I bring it back and I was like, how big is my damn late fee gonna be? And then one day, and this was maybe 7 months later, I went in and I was like, I found it, you guys. And they're like, and I was like, what's the late fee on this? And they looked up, they're like, $10. I'm like, that's it? $10? And they're like, yes. And I gave them $10. They go, congratulations, you own it. Keep it. It's like, oh. Okay, thank you for a wonderful summer of Tales from the Video Store, Yancey. We now move on to the final film.
I can't believe we killed off Yancey in the final episode.
He's gone.
That was the
Goodbye.
twist. Yeah.
Goodbye.
Lone Sun did it.
All right. The final film of the summer of 93 at 30, Fortress.
In the year 2017, one corporation is building a fortress for the ultimate takeover. Your mind. They will control your thoughts. They will invade your dreams.
This is an unauthorized thought process.
Now, one man will fight the system. The critics are calling it more powerful than Total Recall. Christoper Lambert, Fortress, rated R. Starts Friday at a theater near you.
Oh, thank God.
I'm surprised that it was in California, but go on.
Right. This one made money, so
it really did. I was shocked.
It made the money, so that's why it got. That's
there's
why
not
it
a
won.
California 2.
No. Directed by Stuart Gordon.
Yeah.
Written by Troy Neighbors, Steven Feinberg, and David Venable. They had to get that plot and everything
airtight.
Starring Christopher Lambert, Lauren Lachlan, Kurtwood Smith, a little baby Clifton Collins Jr. So adorable.
He's just like Clifton Collins in this movie, if I'm not
right. Lincoln Kilpatrick, Jeffrey Combs, Tom Towles, Vernon Wells, and Carolyn Purdy Gordon in a future private underground prison / fortress. The inmates are computer controlled with CCTV, dream readers, and devices that can cause pain or death. John and his illegally pregnant wife are inside, but want to escape before birth. All right, so this one was from 1992 or internationally, but sees a release in the States here in the coveted Labor Day weekend spot. Stuart Gordon is one of our, I think, best B-movie genre filmmakers we've ever had, and he's coming off his Pit and the Pendulum, and 2 years earlier had done Robot Jocks, which feels like it's in the wheelhouse of this movie, but you know him from Reanimator from Beyond, all that good dolls.
This is on the heels of Castle Freak, of course.
Yeah, Castle Freak's coming up. That's why he got Combs warming up Combs for Castle Freak. All right, so Scott, I have a question here that you might be the answer person for. Christopher Lambert, not necessarily an American box office hit, but internationally at the time, is he one of our first person people recognize as this guy's got global box office potential? Because leads a lot of movies in the late 80s after Highlander. He starts leading a lot of stuff. Well, not first.
Certainly his thing.
But like this
I
one,
do.
like,
I don't want to speak out of turn because I'm just now.
I went to you,
so
it's
true.
your turn. It's your turn. I went to you.
Well, what I mean is I don't want to. Let me put it this way. I think it's possible that he was bankable in the sense of, this film gets overseas pre-sales.
Yeah.
So, hey, we have Christopher Lambert. Okay, I know him. I will distribute your movie in Portugal, whatever. Because people, he's a video star to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Because I certainly very few of his films where I would consider domestic smash hits.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm saying, like, is that way because, like, I always remember. You remember like interviews in the '90s with Tarantino talking about Harvey Keitel. He's like, Harvey Keitel's like big in Europe. You guys don't even know. Like, he's not even. You guys waste him over here. Like, he's huge in Europe. So I'm wondering if like Christopher Lambert, like, was Highlander?
I don't think so, because I'm looking at stuff like The Hunted, which was a $25 million movie that only made, only domestically 6.6. I don't see the overseas numbers.
Like, Brandon, I get your question. Like, it's about
that's interesting.
It doesn't hurt him. Like, he has his fans there, but I wouldn't say it's like an overwhelming success in the same way that other stars have just a locked in market.
Right. Because I mean, he's leading a lot of movies, and then like he does have a team up. Him and Mario Van Peebles like team up, and they're kind of a duo in a lot of movies. They do a lot of movies together, but I'm just like, I was just wondering because I'm like,
alas, I'm gonna have to say I don't know.
Okay.
And there's a lot of like Harvey, like there's a lot of like random ones like that just have that, like, that you just wouldn't expect at all. So
yeah.
So in weird places, it's the whole
like,
half off Germany thing. Like,
so it's like, do we sell to Europe? We're like, okay, we have a genre picture, and it's got Christopher Lambert from Highlander or whatever. Oh yeah, let's we'll get in there. Yeah, we'll they open it in France, and so because he's given like that was your choice. Okay, we got Christopher Lambert. So I mean, he cashed in off Highlander for a good 20 years probably.
Mortal Kombat probably didn't hurt. I mean, even there he was sort of like, again, he wasn't like, oh boy, a star, but it was kind of neat. Like, oh, Christopher Lambert is Raiden. That's fun.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's probably his first use as, okay, this is going to kick off my second wave of like international picture stuff. But then he got replaced with Remar in the second one.
You would probably, and I'm sure you've mentioned this, why did they replace him? Did he just want more money, or was he
They
busy,
probably didn't have a lot of money.
I was sure they didn't have the money to pay.
I've seen the second one. They didn't have the money.
Yeah, but it's what if Mortal Kombat Mighty Morphin Power Rangers?
And
not nearly as that sounds.
And Remar, one of his old wishes was, I want to be Raiden in a Mortal Kombat movie. So
it was, yeah. Yeah.
But no, I mean, as far as Fortress, I had never seen this one before. I was aware of it, and I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was a surprisingly vivid, detailed, very sketched-in portrayal of the specific dystopian world. The film thrived on details of this, and it felt very. It felt very, I don't want to say authentic because this is a sci-fi picture, but it certainly emphasized the emotional and psychological turmoil of living in a situation of this nature. And obviously the action scenes are pretty generic, I would say offhand, and the film doesn't really reinvent the wheel, but I did enjoy the interplay between Lambert and Kurtwood Smith as one of the main villains. And as far as this kind of low budget, but I mean, it's 12 million back in 1993 is probably like 30 today. I don't know. It feels a little bit bigger than it probably is, and it does a lot to fill in the blanks with this world that makes it very lived in a way that makes the film feel bigger and larger in scale than it actually is. And I found it very compelling beyond just, this is a fun, interesting sci-fi movie. It doesn't end with any particular pizzazz, although I think the conclusion is fine. But as far as a B movie with an interesting, very thought out, very sketched out like our world, but XYZ, I thought it was quite good.
Gotcha. We need to mention, though, it took all summer to get here, but the phrase of the summer came from this movie, intestinate.
What was that?
I said the phrase of the summer came from this movie, intestinate. All the kids were like, "Yo, intestinate!" Need
So
the shirt.
the kind of man.
Send us all shirts, listeners, that say intestinate.
You said it, and then the cat jumped on the chair.
I know, intestinate. So, Aaron, Fortress.
This is a good schlock. I like the idea of what if the face-off prison scene was directed by Rennie Harlan or Paul Verhoeven. Like, that's what we're getting here, and I appreciated it. I do like Stuart Gordon from what I've seen. I haven't seen all of his movies, but like he does have this way of making movies that are like gross and weird, without like the commentary that you'd get from like Cronenberg or Verhoeven. It's just kind of like, yeah, I just feel like doing this. Like, that seems to be his vibe. And it's like, I'm cool with that. And that's what this movie is. It does, like, I'm sure you could probably pinpoint some ideas that he's trying to convey about prison systems or whatnot, but I really don't think that's on this movie's mind. I think it's just like, yeah, all right, whatever. Like, let me get my boy Jeffrey in here. We'll see what we can do. And I'll make it gory and weird and have a machine that like hooks up to Kurtwood Smith to like make him feel things while everyone's in prison. It's a weird movie, but I agree with Scott. I do think the details are there that give it more life and meaning than a worse version of this movie would have.
Free Jack.
Yeah, Free Jack.
Yeah.
Or the non-sci-fi version, Lockdown or something like that.
It's an interesting commentary on population control for sure. Yeah.
Sure. And Lambert, like, I don't have much at stake when it comes to Lambert. It's like, if he's in there and he's doing his thing, good for him, I guess. I'm not a Highlander guy, so it doesn't really matter to me. I like him as Raiden because he's that funny, I guess. So it's like, here he's solid. He does the job. I have nothing. I'm just saying, I have nothing, like, I have no like two way about him. It's just like, yeah, he's the guy that's popular, I guess. So he's fine here. I like the general like story idea as far as it's this future. There's no pregnancy allowed and whatnot. And there's these elaborate prisons. Cool. Like, I'm into it. I like this stuff going on here. There's not a whole lot more behind it, but I think it's effectively done. It's gorier than I might have expected. It's better than I expected, frankly, because it's, the Labor Day weekend movie. And it's like, well, I'd never heard of this until we mentioned it here. And I'm like, Stuart Gordon. All right, let's see what this is. And I'm happy it delivered what it needed to, for the movie that it is.
Yeah, this is a movie. I always remember the VHS box. It's just his head, like, it was like Fortress. I'm like, what is this? Like, like, what are you telling me here? Right from the opening shot, I was impressed. It's a traveling shot that goes around up through to a guard looking over the bridge. Like, it was, for a movie of this nature, that shot shouldn't be in here, but you have Stuart Gordon. And there's some genuine, well-crafted suspense in this opening bridge sequence that I really liked in the movie. Like, you're like, what's going on? It slowly informs you, gives you this dread, this menace. And then, this movie ends up being like, this is my wheelhouse here. I have a soft spot for these. I don't have much money, but I have this idea, sci-fi movies from like the early 80s and 90s, and the sets, the costumes, the props from the cheapness film best it can. There's a charm for me in here. It's like these, like, I like the dime store RoboCop guys that are like the guards that come through here and try to fight things. So, it's just, there's a nice little interesting, unique to this movie way of telling a prison story. That's really cool. There's a lot of stomachs exploding, people exploding. Like, while you guys said the action isn't good, the practical effects and body parts flying stuff.
Oh, the violence is cool.
Is very cool. You get character actors just chewing up scene. Like, you have Kurtwood Smith is great here.
Yeah, he's having a lot of fun here.
I love it. But you have like Jeffrey Combs, Tom Towles, like, not hamming it up, but really getting into their characters.
Involved, he's going to give you anything you want, and I love it.
Yeah,
I love Jeffrey Combs. Happy to have him on board anything.
Yeah, you get these guys that they're like, which one we on this week? All right, cool. What kind of guy? What kind of character type that I usually play? Am I being? All right, cool. And they go and they knock it out. They have this like. They have these ideas, like, he's having fun with this set. Like, he got to the set, it was like, all right, there's this bridge, so we're gonna fight on a damn bridge. Someone's gonna fall, someone's gonna blow up, like, all this stuff. So it's fun. Like there's like I said, intestinate is the like the weirdest thing with this movie. Like that's probably the one like I'm like, well, you guys went there. You guys came up with that phrase. You said you put a fucking like wiener in Lambert's mouth to shoot it into his stomach. All right.
As one does.
Yeah, as one says. It does turn into like a divorce your husband, marry me story.
Mm-hmm.
The wife, and like I love how like every thought Christopher Lambert has thinking of his wife is like horny time with my wife. Like that's and I have a question. They keep talking about like she got pregnant with her second kid. I'm like, well, where's the first one?
Died.
Okay, so you can't have another one.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was I was like, wait, okay. I thought they talked about the second one died and whatever. This movie does tease at like I thought it was leading up to an ending that was going to give the Mist a run for its money, but the wife lived. So it's like, oh my god, like because I was thinking, I'm like, Gordon is ruthless sometimes, and this movie's like a cheap B. Like I'm like, oh, he might actually have done what I think he just did there. But I was like, the wife might die, but I like the baby's gonna be somewhere. That's what I thought was gonna happen. Like she tossed the baby into a tree as things blew up. But no, that was not it. So I think this is a really solid beat. If you find it on a streaming service when it's run, it's a good late night entertainment. Your friends like this is fun. This is
this deserves a synapse or a vinegar. Or something.
Yeah, it had a Blu-ray for a short time that was just a basic Blu-ray, and it's out of print and way too expensive for what this movie is.
We need the imprint Lambert collection. That's what
the Lambert collection. As a guy who saw Highlander back in the day, liked it, and then started watching more Christopher Lambert movies, and then never checked this one out. This is probably one of his. This is like top tier.
It's one of, the things I've seen of him. This is the preferred.
And I love the guy. The guy gets actually good one-liners, but he delivers them in such a Lambert way. Where he's like, I just said a one-liner.
And he operates in this weird realm between Walken and Van Damme, and I don't. Quite,
yeah.
I don't.
Yeah. No, that is perfect.
I don't quite get what that is, but I get I see why this could be appealing.
Yeah, I think we watch him because it's funny because it's like this. It's always a weird performance. It's always the same kind of performance, but he's weird with deliveries in an unpredictable way, and also a way that you're like, oh, that's a Lambert right there. Like it's interesting. And then the poor bastard, he did these Highlander movies, and then they did the one where they mixed the TV show and the movies together, and it was clearly written by the TV show people, and he got his send off for his character was just the most we need to get rid of this guy type thing.
But at least it didn't have to be in part 5.
And they put him hair plugs, these awful hair plugs in his hair. It was bad.
Well, immortals can't go bald.
It could be worse. Blake Edwards could have I don't know, used series of outtakes with him, and he's right there for the whole movie.
True. So Scott, how did this one do at the box office?
This one was actually
box office
a relative success. It opened with approximately $4 million in September 3rd, and then it ended up with a mere $6.7 million on an $8 million budget, but it earned $48 million worldwide.
Boom.
Which is actually pretty good for a Lambert movie. I mean, your question is a good one, but from what I can gather, this is one of the only ones that really broke out overseas. But I could be mistaken.
There is a Fortress 2.
It's a recovery from Highlander 2.
True.
Bounce back.
Pink Panther, Son of, made $1.1 million in its opening weekend in the end of August. It would eventually let out to a whopping $2.4 million.
Pull the plug and reboot it.
Yep, that's basically what they did. And then California opened on September 3rd with $1.1 million, and it would leg out to $2.4 million. So it was not a success. And Calendar Girls, 1.8 September 3rd, 2.5 total. So this is not a big box office weekend for any of the newbies.
Doesn't look like Jason Priestley is going to play Robin in Batman Forever, does it?
Indeed not.
So the top 10, our last top 10.
Shocker, The Fugitive, which actually went up 17% over the holiday weekend, with $17.2 million over what I assume is a 4-day weekend, bringing its domestic total up to 133.7. In second place, rising a few spots and adding 200 screens, The Man Without a Face, earning $5.5 million, up 36% for a $12.4 million 13 or 11-day total.
Jesus.
Hard Target still in number 3, 4.4 in its minus 12% in its third weekend for a 18-day total of $24.8 million. And number 4, yes, Jurassic Park. Going up 40% from its mere 12th weekend of release, earning $4.1 million to bring its end of 13 weekend total up to $316.6 million. Already becoming, well, by next week it would pass, or the week after, I'll look it up, Star Wars, which at that point in time had earned $322 million in North America. Obviously not counting the eventual 1997 re-release. So Jurassic Park would then be between Star Wars and E.T. domestically. E.T. and at that time, again, not counting the eventual 2002 re-release, had earned $399 million in North America. Speaking of films that did not earn that much money, Needful Things earned $4.5 million, down 22% in its second weekend for $11.2 million in 11 days. As noted, Fortress would open with $4 million. Secret Garden.
In today's climate, somebody would have checked the couch cushions and got Fortress ahead of Needful Things.
Most certainly.
I'm saying Needful Things is 4.05 and this is Fortress 4.04. Like,
yes,
come on,
they absolutely would have.
Anything to knock Needful Things down.
By the way, setting a record for the biggest weekend, the biggest gross ever for a 2,907 weekend gross, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs with $749,224, going up 108% from last weekend to bring its lifetime, obviously unadjusted for inflation, total to $98 million.
Gotcha.
So it's got to be like 400 million.
So who is number?
Oh yeah, it's like 1.2 billion adjusted, I think.
So number 7 was Secret Garden.
Yeah, Secret Garden was number 7, 3.6 million. In Line of Fire, 3.2. Free Willy, 3, and Rising Sun in 10th place with 2.9.
All right, well, guys, we did it. That is it. That is the summer of '93 at 30. We've been through all the movies. So now, what did we learn, Aaron? This was your first time doing this. Scott did it last year, but did you enjoy this experience? What was going through? How was it for you? Big on this side of it,
obviously very regrettable. No, this is I
didn't want to invite you anyway.
It's funny. It's not like eye-opening in any way as far as like what we're seeing, because it's like beyond like the idea of the kinds of movies that you get then versus the kinds of movies that you get now. You can still chalk up a lot of the same patterns as far as certain stars are in things, certain genres are popular. Obviously, there's just, there's more tent poles now that rely on a certain kind of thing, visual effects or what have you, compared to then. But the things have changed are things like, the demographics and like what you're seeing, who you're seeing on screen versus then, where it's still selling off of movie stars. Like 93 is a big movie star summer as far as, you have your Schwarzenegger film, you have a Stallone, you have a Hanks, you have a Ryan, was Willis anywhere involved? We didn't get a Willis, no. Nope. We got a Snipes and we got a Connery and we got a Harrison Ford. We got like we got all these big players. So it's certainly a Cruise. We have so many, like it very much is still like a time when movie stars were selling tickets, which is at its own thing.
So your personal, like watching it all, was it tough? Was it fun? Was it
tough for me to watch these movies? No, it wasn't tough to watch. Like there's movies I didn't like, but I enjoyed replicating a summer. That was interesting to me. Watching these various lineups in different weeks to see like how counter programming works exactly, and watching these, that was intriguing to me. and I do align that with the what I'm seeing from that summer as far as like what studios felt would make sense in these various weeks and how we put things out there.
Gotcha. So we were moving into, you started mentioning things that ever. Scott, let's go over to you here. Themes of this summer. We talked about themes, like what was a recurring thing you noticed happening in 82? We're now at 93. So what were some of the things you picked up on for 93 for the summer?
Well, I generally speaking, this summer, like many of the quote unquote, early 90s summer, you saw this sort of sort of a balance between pre-tentpole Hollywood and a more franchise-friendly slate, because this was, it's been 4 years since Batman and the summer of '89, and Hollywood is getting more into that, but you still have a slew of just a movies. Or even something like The Fugitive, where you could argue that the fact that it's a rousing, kick-ass Harrison Ford action thriller is more important or about as important as the IP that is The Fugitive. I think I think the films that made up the summer are comparatively less different than what we get today versus the summer of '82.
Sure.
If only by comparison. And there were some films, Guilty as Sin comes to mind, that, I liked, I'm always so nostalgic of the old school studio programmer, blah, blah, blah. But A, they're not all good, obviously. But B, more importantly, some of these films aren't as big in scope and scale as I remember. And it's not even a bad thing necessarily. It's just sort of a reminder that not every Hollywood film was as huge as Contact and Face Off. Sort of my go-to thoughts of, back in my day. And, not to be a broken record, but it is frustrating to see the strides being made in 1993 in terms of inclusivity and diversity, in terms of gender, skin color, sexual orientation, etc., and how those were more or less just wiped off the map, after 2000. And, as I've often said, and I'm sure other people do, it's that, the kind of films that we were getting, pre-COVID, even something like, Love, Simon, or what's the Christmas movie with Kristen Stewart? Perfect Season, I think.
Holiday Season.
And, those were the kind of films that I felt we were probably going to get in had Hollywood not been swallowed by tentpole fever. Those were the natural, next steps after The Birdcage and In and Out and stuff like that. So it just, it feels like 20 years or so that have just progress just stopped. And otherwise, yeah, it's interesting to see how many of the big movies were, it's a huge movie star in a movie.
Yeah.
In The Line of Fire, The Fugitive, The Firm.
It's the new Tom Cruise movie. It's the new Meg Ryan movie. It's the new this movie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the fact that The Firm could be a be expected to be a massive hit because it was a Tom Cruise movie and it was based on a paperback that basically everybody read, if you were an adult. And in a certain way, that was sort of what Mission Impossible was. It was like, take the biggest movie star in the world and cast him in this very well-known IP that allows him to play in the action movie sandbox. Back when that was,
you have a huge star and you have other stars and you have IP, you have it's less irregular compared to The Firm. Like The Firm is just like, he's a lawyer. Some stuff happens to him. It's a book. You read it.
Yeah. And it's as far as surprises, I mean, again, I was, having not seen it before, I was shocked how much Guilty as Sin, which is boring as hell.
Well, we'll get to surprises.
Okay, yeah, then I'll stop talking.
I'm talking about themes of the summer. So I noticed kids movies. They were all over the place. There was something for kids all the time. every time aimed at kids, different qualities. Of course, they're allowed to have kids movies aimed at kids that an adult has to just fucking take it when they're at the theater. You know? And that was here. Kids had like their own stars. They, we had Rookie of the Year, you had Free Willy, you had, it was just like they got to run their course and then came another. Or, and then you have like Hocus Pocus, which I wasn't even, that's a kid's movie, but feels different than, say, Rookie of the Year. I also have where were the horror movies? Like, this is a time, but then I realized this is a time when that genre was like dying, aside from aiming at prestige adult chasing Silence of the Lambs movies, dying. So they were probably holding off till like we have like Needful Things and Hocus Pocus and what?
Friday the 13th, Jason.
And we had a Friday the 13th movie, but it was at the when Paramount didn't even want it no more. So it was a New Line one. So this stuff was, on its way out. The black movies were common, casual. They weren't dominant or anything, but they were just like they were well rounded in terms of like not all being some had something important to say. You could have like Poetic Justice, where it's just kind of like a rom-com, not rom-com-y. Well, it has that element to it. But they were present. They were out to, you didn't, they were just playing at the theater.
There's more to come from here, but yeah, it's certainly
there's more to come. Yeah.
There's an interesting, because you get a Western, you get a comp, you get a you get a biopic. So I mean,
and then I noticed there's this crisscross between the action guys and the thriller guys, and some of the thriller guys would become action guys, and some of the thriller guys are old action guys. Like you got Van Damme, Schwarzenegger, Stallone, but then you got Cruise in there. You've got like Eastwood turning into more of a thriller guy. And then like you've got the combo of like Connery and Snipes in a thriller. So there's like that's kind of,
you got Tom Hanks hiding that murder of his wife in that one movie.
Yeah, right.
So you've seen that deleted scene.
So I mean, we're building up to like, because Stallone points to like Michael Keaton and Batman change, like anybody could be an action hero, but really I think it's when Reeves does Speed, because you have Willis, but he's just Willis, but then you get like Keanu, and now there's more of them, and that's the one I think Speed really like. Because then you ask Christian Slater to hold, to be an action star. After that, and like they start trying.
This is not nothing though. I mean,
I think the trifecta of Cage in '96 was sort of where. This is
that's the big one, because he's an Oscar winner,
right? Yeah,
like so high octane action movies.
But like in that, so like that the equivalent of that is like he wins an Oscar, he goes and does those pure action movies. That'd be like I got my Oscar, I'm gonna go play this Marvel character. That's what that would be back in the 90s. So that was one of the things I noticed as well with this summer. Aaron, do you have any more theme things that you were?
No, nothing you haven't hit. I mean, anything else is just probably emerge when I start going through these lists of things. But
okay,
so you're hitting the right points here.
Gotcha. Thank you, sir. So since Scott already went here, I'm going to skip down to our 3 favorite discoveries from the summer of 93 at 30. So Scott, you started yours. What were your 3 favorite discoveries that weren't House of Cards?
Now, I didn't want to just do movies that I hadn't seen, because most of these films, the ones that there were plenty that I had seen, but I just hadn't seen them in like, 30 years. My favorite discovery was how fucking awesome Free Willy was.
Okay. That's fine. Yeah.
Because I mean, I was always aware of the film, and I had kind of sort of seen it when I was a kid and think this is fine, whatever. But going back and rewatching it, it just really is like, God, this is a spectacular picture. The kid is good. The adults are authentic and relatable and human. And it's one of those films that's, with the exception of, I guess, Michael Ironside, who's, the bad guy. It's basically just good people trying to be good to each other and more or less having good things happening, even when you have a protagonist who's had very bad things happen to him previously. It's a film that's filled with slightly unexpected goodness throughout, which is always something that I enjoy.
I want that on the back of the box. Slightly unexpected goodness throughout. Scott Mendelson.
Yes. Posse. I think I had seen that when, in the early HBO days, and I knew of its, cultural value, et cetera, but just as a film, it was a lot of fun to watch, just in terms of what's come what's come afterwards. And I was very pleased by how well staged and, individually, mano a mano, the climactic shootout was. That there were lots of little action beats within there with specific characters, which any good Western should have, but it's always nice to see that. American Heart, which was a film I had heard of, I was aware of, but I'd never actually seen it. And it just was a really, really just straight down the middle, rock solid character drama. With a terrific performance by Jeff Bridges during that whole Jeff Bridges is underrated, says every critic in America phase.
Gotcha. Aaron, what were your three underrated discoveries?
I have two from that Scott had. Posse's one of them. Posse's
Mm-hmm.
the only one as far as like a discovery that I already knew existed, but I just hadn't seen it. But
That's right. Yeah, it didn't have. Oh, I didn't know this movie existed.
No, but I have a logic to this list. So, with discoveries, I do. I thought about like how to go about these, and like Posse's one where it was the one I was most curious about, just because I've been wanting to see it, and I finally had the opportunity to.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think just the work done in that film to make it what it is, I think I found to be just quite interesting. Like, along with liking the movie quite a bit, I thought that was a neat one to catch up on. American Heart's the other one, which that was a true discovery because I just never heard of this movie before. I didn't know about it, didn't know it existed. And while I wouldn't say I was overboard on the film overall, I still like the movie quite a bit. And I do think Bridges and Furlong are doing the job here. I do think they really delivered what the heart of the movie is trying to do. And The Music of Chance is the other one. Music of Chance is a movie I had no idea about whatsoever. I like the giant swings that it's taking. I enjoyed seeing where it was going, as far as kind of what the result is of this thing, and just having these two guys, Patinkin and Spader. Like, it just, I didn't know what this thing was going to be, and the fact that it like emerged in the way it did, that intrigued me. I also throw out there, because I have honorable mentions, Wilder Napalm, because it's like weird. Like, just, it's not a great movie by any means, but it's also like, what is this? Like, this is such a unique type of film. And I was just happy to finally watch Manhattan Murder Mystery.
There you go.
I wasn't like a discovery. It was just more of like, this is everything I wanted it to be. Like, this is really good.
Gotcha. So Posse goes 3 for 3 here because that was in mine. The Music of Chance goes 2 for 3. That was in mine. I don't know. That was a very watchable, fun movie for me. The one I differ from you guys is The Wedding Banquet, the Ang Lee film. I really like that one a lot. And then I Think Called Love almost made it, but I was like, I have problems. Even though I was into a lot of it. But my honorable mention, Benefit of the Doubt, because I laughed my ass off during the second half of that movie so much. So I'm never gonna watch it again. The others I will, but I just wanted to mention I did have a good hoot. I use hoot with that one, watching that one. So that is a good segue, Scott, for what were the 5 toughest movies for you to get through watching?
Now, for me, this was different than just, the worst, or, because it's no secret I do not like Last Action Hero, but it's not like I'm sitting there going, oh God, when will this end? When will this end? Because there are surface level pleasures. So generally in order of release. I'm sorry?
It's also not the worst of anything either.
No. So this is, I think, in order of release, give or take, just because I was going through the calendar. Super Mario Brothers. It just, every fucking time, it's like, my God, this movie is so boring. Guilty as Sin. Carnosaur. It's the idea of watching Carnosaur is always more fun than actually sitting through Carnosaur.
Gene Siskel disagrees.
He's wrong. It happens. He didn't like Silence of the Lambs or Field of Dreams. Benefit of the Doubt. Fucking boring because he's guilty. There's no suspense. And the last 20 minutes or so were, okay, this is an instant fun, but whatever. Tom and Jerry was just a nothing burger.
Gotcha. Aaron?
So I think I'm in the same area as Scott as far as the logic of this list. It's less about what I would, now some of it kind of crosses over, but as far as quality goes, but it's like, what were films that were hard for me to like sit there and be like, okay, there's another hour 45 minutes of this, huh? So on that level, Needful Things is number 5. because that movie's so repetitive.
Oh shit! I forgot to put that on my list. Yes,
it's like there's more of this. Like, what are we gonna do in here? There's a 3-hour cut that we're not watching, thankfully.
Yes, shop somewhere else.
So, Needful Things, Son of Pink Panther, Sliver.
Oh, wow!
Which I do not have the time for. It was like it's between it was like but compared to Guilty as Sin, because they're pretty similar to some degree. Like this is the lesser one. It's a not like at least Guilty as Sin ends hardcore. Sliver's just like then she broke some of his TVs, I guess. Fuck this movie. Speaking of fuck this movie, My Boyfriend's Back. Fuck this movie.
Oh, yeah.
God.
Oh gosh. I'm trying to.
Someone did the whole list, I guess. I'm sorry.
I'm trying to get that out of my brain.
So, but as I've said many times, the worst kind of movie for me is a comedy that's not funny. There's nothing worse to watch to me than that kind of film, and that's a movie that's not funny and it's awful. Speaking of which, House of Cards easily tops the list here. It's a garbage film. It's mistakes were made. Honorable mentions: Equinox, just whatever. Calendar Girl, Carnosaur, and Better Than a Doubt, because like I hear what you're like, yeah, it's technically one of the worst movies we've seen. By the way, I made a whole Letterboxd list. I'll share it with you guys after this. But I do have that. It's published now on my Letterboxd page. It's just my name, so you can find like how I've ranked every single one of these movies. But yeah, Better Than a Doubt, like it's a terrible. It's the second worst film that I've watched this summer, but it is entertaining in its own way. So like that has that going for it, like you said, Brandon.
Gotcha. My 5 toughest to watch: House of Cards, it made it. Equinox, Weekend at Bernie's 2, Tom and Jerry, that garbage, and this week's Son of Pink Panther. Horrible. So I'll go first with the top 10 favorite movies of this summer. For me, no particular order here.
You guys suck. Scott's not going to rank it up.
No, I did it in order for me.
Oh,
okay, fine.
My number one's The Fugitive. So if you want a one something, everything else is coming below The Fugitive in some capacity. I have The Fugitive, In the Line of Fire, Orlando made my top 10, Cliffhanger, Sleepless in Seattle, Menace to Society, So I Married an Axe Murderer, Manhattan Murder Mystery, Hard Target, and Dave were my top 10. I'm not going to do honorable mentions because I said 10. So 10 it is. Aaron, I'll go back to you.
I can't not do honorable mentions. I will say I left out Snow White and Nothing But a Man on purpose.
Right.
Yeah. But I did that very purposefully.
Same mindset.
Honorable mentions. I do have Cliffhanger, So I Married an Axe Murderer, and Dave. Number 10 is The Wedding Banquet. Number 9 is The Music of Chance. 8, Orlando. Number 7, Sleepless in Seattle. Number 6, Manhattan Murder Mystery. Number 5, In the Line of Fire. Number 4, Searching for Bobby Fischer. Number 3, Menace to Society. Number 2, Welcome to Jurassic Park. And number 1,
I forgot Jurassic Park.
You forgot Jurassic Park.
I just completely threw it. Like I was like, oh my god, I forgot Jurassic Park.
Oh wow!
Honorable mention.
Wouldn't it be great if we had a letterbox code to keep track of?
Oh my god! You guys probably like, damn, guy hates Jurassic Park. So sorry to Dave, you got bumped for Jurassic Park. Oh my god!
My number 1 is The Fugitive.
Yeah. Wow. Sorry, Steven. Yeah, that was a mistake. So going back to mine, Dave has been scratched for Wow. And I sat looking over this and over this and over this. I made cuts that felt hard. And I totally like Jurassic Park. This is what you said, Aaron. It's your favorite movie. It's like it's your favorite movie that's not your favorite movie. So I don't think of it like.
Yeah, I was kind of shocked to see it ranked so high.
Yeah.
So, I like Jurassic Park. I like it more than 9 movies on this list.
Wow. So for those of you listening that were like, the fuck, no Jurassic Park? What's going to be in his...
At least Papa Aaron over here mentioned the movie.
I have revisited
it's no
my
dinosaur.
list. I have revisited my list. Maybe re-edited this podcast so I say it the first time. But
no, none of that.
I'm honest, it's still here. So there we go. Sorry, Dave. Dave is my honorable mention. Jurassic Park made the list.
If you edited this, I would tweet out that you edited this.
He's a liar. All right, Scott.
In ascending order, I guess, and some of this is more random than others. The Wedding Banquet, Dave. What's Love Got to Do with It? Much Ado About Nothing. Free Willy, which fucking rocks. Menace to Society, the funniest film of the summer. No. Jurassic Park, which I remembered the first time. The Fugitive, In the Line of Fire, and Searching for Bobby Fischer.
Oh, sorry, listeners. House of Cards did not make it. I know
everybody
was sitting there.
You said no honorable mentions, so.
All right. So, one last thing. Or, here we go. Two last things. Least favorite episode to record movie watching wise for the show.
Maybe this one? Just because, we went really a long time between, and it was partially my fault, between when we watched and when we actually recorded, and partially because the movies weren't particularly noteworthy. And it seemed sort of a bummer to end on. It's not, it's the calendar. Maybe this one by default.
Calendar girl. Okay. Aaron, what was your least favorite?
Now, is the idea of like the lineup of films we're talking about, and that's what
not like we hated getting together and talking about.
Like I like doing this.
No, not that. It was just like what was the one where like this block of films just didn't hit at all.
To me, it feels like it should be obvious. We had a 5-film round with like 4 of the worst.
That was my pick.
Needful Things, Man Without a Face, which is fine, but fuck Mel Gibson, so I don't care. Only the Strong, Fatherhood, and The Thing Called Love. Only one of those movies I like. 2 of them are like way down at the bottom of the list here. Like, so yeah, that's a shit episode.
So that episode was it was 5 of them, and then nothing. Like I wanted The Thing Called Love to stick more. It didn't. That was the one I was more interested. Man Without a Face, I was like, on Needful Things. Woo.
I enjoyed trashing Needful Things. I had a good time with that.
Only the Strong could have been some stupid movie, but it was dull and shit. And Fatherhood is
thought
awful.
It was a fun, stupid movie.
Oh, but yeah, that was the one that stuck out to me. Yeah.
As far as the lineup of films is concerned, because I was looking at all of these films, and it was like, this is the one that like, because every week there's like 2 that are maybe fine, and then 2 that are maybe bad or what have you. This is the one where it's like, this is just nonstop shit for the most part.
Yeah, because this week California was interesting. We all liked Fortress. And then we had one really painful comedy, and then Scott liked Calendar Girls. So
liked is strong. It
was hard
compared to
Yeah. It was hard to find another one because I had this episode because it's like, there's 2 bad ones here, but then like the only other one I thought was one that had 2 good movies, or 2 movies I like, because one's like Water for Chocolate, Hot Shots Part 2, which are fun. Like I like both of those. Well, I like Water for Chocolate more obviously, but that is Carnosaur and Sliver, which are shit. So it's like, but no, that Fiver, that's the
right.
Take.
Yeah, and it was 5. So okay, favorite one, Aaron.
my favorite is it rules. It's Cliffhanger, Made in America.
That's the same one I had.
Yeah, me too.
That was it. Yeah. Even though Mario Brothers,
that's great. That's amazing.
That was the one. Yeah, because everything would because Mario is. Well,
it's fun to talk about how bad it is.
It's a fascinating failure. It's a fascinating failure, and it's fun to talk about. Menace Society is a great film. Cliffhanger is an awesome blockbuster. And Made America is like this little the Made one America's that we were like the movie that could.
Exactly that. It's our little tank engine. It's like good for you, Made in America.
That almost made my favorite discoveries list.
Yeah. So that was
I had sort of seen it, but it's like this is aged very well.
Yeah, that's the only set of movies I found where it's like everything about this list is interesting to me.
Yeah. That was the one. So, all right. Well, awesome. I thank you both for going on this journey with me, completing it. Listeners, thank you for whatever you did, like just listening, watching a little mini clip there, here and there, and
interacting on social media,
interacting on social media,
that's
correcting us, enlightening us about the news stories we laughed at. That was my favorite. Was some of my favorite stuff. And I hope you keep with the Brandon Peters show will return sooner, of course. With like next week, I think next week, or maybe I'll take a week off. Sabina Graves and I will catch up for see how we did, how the summer movie season went, and how we did on some of our little picks and our little game we did. But what's next here? The summer of 93 at 38 is concluded. We hope that you come back to join us for the summer of 2004 at 20, beginning next May, with Scott, Aaron, and I returning and talking about the films of the summer of 2004. So very excited to get started on that one. We've already got 8 episodes recorded. No, just kidding. We have not started.
Wait, what?
We have AI, Scott. That's what we got. AI.
That summer kicks off of a blast too. Van Helsing. Boom. Oh my god.
Boom. Oh my gosh. You like monsters? We got them. So that's very exciting. I love this series. This is probably my favorite things to do, and one of my favorite things I've ever done in podcasting. So I appreciate Scott and Aaron being along for this journey, making it plus these are fun as hell to record too. We have a blast doing it. I hope it comes across in episodes. I love going over this. It's a fascinating thing, a big pop culture journey, just seeing like what the fuck was going on when I love the news and stuff and TV, because I'm like, what was going on when Cliffhanger came out? Like, what were you doing during the week? Like, what news, like, what crazy thing happened that why you were like, I'm going to see Cliffhanger this weekend, but who finished a mile fastest? Like, I don't know if we know that or not, but some weird news stories pop up. I love that Letterman stopped his show and began his show in the middle of this. Yeah, just crazy stuff. And a lot of baseball stats for Scott. He loves those. So
Brandon, I do appreciate you inviting me along to go on this summer ride with you guys. This is a lot of fun. I very much enjoy it, but I give you plenty of credit for assembling all of this, getting all, you talk about the news, but you have to assemble all this data, you pull all this stuff up, you help us with the movies or what have you. Obviously you're editing all these episodes together and whatnot. This is a tremendous effort. I'm very happy to be involved with it.
Thank you. Yeah, it's like I love it.
I'm just along for the ride. This is your podcast.
If it wasn't so much work, I would be more frequently than just a summer, but I could not maintain it for an entire year.
Scott's also right. Yeah, not having to edit a podcast is great for me. It's a great break for me.
Yeah, and I mean I try to make it an interesting edit with clips and stuff to make so you're not just listening to us talk. And you get a break from that. You get to hear some nostalgic stuff. Like I always, with the trailers, I go with TV spots because the TV spot has a guy talking. So you're listening to a podcast, it's usually got a narrator. But just seeing how those things were edited, what pushes were, because there's a lot of TV spots that are like people coming out of the theater being like, "Oh my gosh, it was awesome!" Like they don't do that anymore, really.
It's just a shame that Yancey's head was too big for the frame, and that's why he couldn't be in the video.
Oh yeah, thanks to Yancey Birds. I forgot. Yeah, thanks to Yancey Birds for being a part of this. He did the video store things. He has some fun stories. He had a little mini series of episodes about Tarantino that were great. He was fun. Thanks to Prez Maxon. He'll be on here Friday to wrap up as he does. He did the theme for Summer of 93 at 30. He also did this theme for the news. And he does it with just because he's an awesome guy and loves helping out with the show. Special thanks also to the music video people, Jessica Alsman, Troy Brownfield, David Banks, who stepped up a lot. He helped me out more than he knows. Jennifer Rayford, of course, she's always great. Abe has joined the Brandon Peters show. Tony Schaub also in there as well. He went from Old Space Show to there. So we are grateful for that. But thank you everyone who has helped out. And again, the listener, you're important. The engagement is what I like. That's fun because I tell people, I'm like, there's people with thousands, millions of like subscribers, followers on places, which I don't have in areas, but like
we don't all have Smartless money.
I want the engagement. I want you to actually listen. I don't want like just empty follows and stuff. I want the engagement. I want you to actually hear the show. And I actually noticed that people watch the YouTubes for these and they listen to it audio wise. And that's what I want. I don't want the empty follow. I want the actual listen because it's hard work. I want people to hear it. So thank you all. So yeah, that's Summer of 93 at 30. Aaron, before we go, let people know where to keep up with you until 2004.
I can be found on the podcast Out Now with Aaron and Abe, featuring myself and Summer of 93 music guest Abe Mua. We talk about the weekly movie releases. It's a lot of fun. By the time you're hearing this, we'll have just wrapped up the summer movie gamble to see where we all landed with this summer.
Boy.
Oh my gosh.
Spoilers, Scott lost. But yeah.
How did I know? How was I supposed to know the Dead Reckoning would be bad?
But yeah.
Who saw that coming?
Again, lost again.
That yeah.
Fuck you.
That podcast is out there. It's weekly. We have a lot of fun doing that, just like we had a lot of fun doing here. I write movie reviews for Leave Entertainment. I write Blu-ray and Criterion reviews for Why So Blue. I am on X / Twitter, Aaron's PS4, as well as an Instagram and Letterboxd. Be sure to follow me if you. I don't know. I don't really use Letterboxd for social means, but I do have the list of all these movies on Letterboxd. So follow me there.
And Scott?
I'm at therap.com. I'm on Twitter at Scott Mendelson, and I'm on Blue Sky. What that's worth.
Okay.
I got an invite, so okay, fine.
Right. What's your Threads address?
Oh, I don't have one. I had to, yeah. At the very least, until it becomes available on a desktop, I'm not joining.
All right.
And that's it.
All right. I'm on Twitter and Instagram at BrandonPorkyUHD. My written work is at whysoblue.com. Want to plug somebody's work. If you're in the Indianapolis area and you're driving to work in the morning, turn to 92.3 WTTS FM for Matt Pelser as your guide on your morning drive, as I forgot to give him props for being on the Summer 93 at 30, and that's where he's at. You can find him there. He's a great morning listen on the radio, plays some good tunes as well. But yeah, that's it here. We return next summer of 2004 at 20. The Brand Peters Show, regular, I don't know, returns soon. Watch the social medias. And thank you, Aaron and Scott, my music video peeps, your listeners.
Always a pleasure.
Great. And as I always say, stay film positive.
It's the summer of 93
at 30.
Thank you for listening. The Brandon Peters Show is a Creative Zombie Studios production. Produced by Brad Shoemaker and Brandon Peters. Written and edited by Brandon Peters. Announcer vocals by Jessica Alsman. Theme song by Metavari. Web design and show art by Brad Shoemaker with Brandon Peters. All music and clips featured in the episode are property of their respective studios, and no infringement is intended. The Summer of and News themes by Press Maxon. Additional information on this and other episodes at thebrandonpetershow.com. For any inquiries, press opportunities, or sponsorship, contact mail at thebrandonpetershow.com. The show is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere podcasts are found.